Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Well, as we always say, if even CNN is admitting that it's bad, well then you know that it's probably pretty bad. It is the Democrats' last hope. There's a drone that was sent to New York, with a hologram message of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez saying, "Please, Alvin Bragg, you're our only hope. Please. Take down the orange man. Please get the job done because nothing else has worked." This is really their last option. It's the last piece of the lawfare campaign that's left. The only one that's likely to wrap up ahead of the election. There's only one problem. It's by far the worst case. Not just the flawed legal premise, but the fact that the case itself is built off of claims from two, let's just say, very non-credible witnesses, Michael Cohen and Stormy Daniels. Well, of course, we've spoken at length about Michael Cohen, but now the conversation is all about Stormy Daniels. Stormy Daniels just testified in the case, and let's just say it's not exactly a good news day for the radical blue anon left who are sitting at the edge of their seat hoping Donald Trump's gonna go to prison today. In other words, bad news for those living in a Trump-deranged fantasy world. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright friends, so I actually want to start off with this video right over here. Let's start off with the least trusted name in news, that's MSNBC. Here's MSNBC host Lawrence O'Donnell fawning all over Stormy Daniels after her testimony.
Well, the excitement and anticipation in the room hit a new high at 10:32 a.m. She entered wearing all black, as if on her way to a funeral. The loose-fitting, plain black clothing draping from her shoulders to her toes suggested the modesty of a nun. The makeup was minimal, the way she and the other moms in her neighborhood might look when shopping at the local grocery store. The long blonde hair held up with a clip at the back of her head, the way it might be in a utilitarian way while she was doing dishes or checking one of the horseshoes on her horse she later spoke of so proudly. When she walked by him, her face had the same expressionless, somber look that all the jurors always have when they walk by him.
What am I even watching? The guy's comparing Stormy Daniels to a nun. To radical blue anon leftists on MSNBC, Stormy Daniels is what, Mother Teresa? I'm so confused. But I guess according to the sentiment, Stormy Daniels is the new Democrat hero. She's gonna take Donald Trump down. Her testimony must have been incredible. I mean, for Pete's sakes, next week we might be hearing about how Stormy Daniels might be the Democrat presidential nominee. Joe Biden's gonna step down at the convention and Stormy Daniels is gonna take his place. Anyways, I wanted to play that clip first to show you guys what's going on in Insano World. Then let's quickly snap back to reality. Actually, from CNN of all places, let's just say the MSNBC coverage didn't exactly cut it. Take a look at this beautiful headline. CNN legal analyst stunned by Stormy Daniels' admission that, quote, she hates Trump. Take a look at this from Eli Honig.
The cross-exam, boy, her responses were disastrous. I mean, do you hate Donald Trump? Yes, of course she does. That's a big deal. When the witness hates the person whose liberty is at stake, that's a big damn deal. And she's putting out tweets, fantasizing about him being in jail. That really undermines the credibility. The fact that she owes him $500,000, she, by order of a court, owes Donald Trump $500,000 and said, I will never pay him. I will defy a court order. The defense is going to say she's willing to defy a court order. Why? She's not willing to respect an order of a judge. Why is she going to respect this oath she took? So I thought it went quite poorly on cross-exam. At the end of direct, I thought, okay, they got what they needed, but I think the cross is making real inroads.
It's a stunning admission. She was asked if she hates Donald Trump, and her response was yes. Well, of course she hates Donald Trump, and she answered that honestly. The only problem is, the Democrats have built a trash case where a crime was literally never committed, and their only sole star witness just admitted that she has a vendetta against the defendant. You don't need to have a law degree to understand that that's a bad thing, and that the jury is likely not to take or perceive that well. And it gets even worse because she now admitted that she'd be willing to defy a court order. She'd be willing to break the law because she's unwilling to pay him. him. Yeah, that cannot possibly be the person at the core of these allegations. At the end of the day, Stormy Daniels is to be believed. That is the whole point. They have to believe her story, but she just shot herself in the foot because at this point, I mean, considering how much personal animus she has towards the former president, well, she could simply be making it up. It's her word versus his. Did they actually have an affair? We don't know. Or was it a shakedown? Was it an extortion racket? Where, of course, she knew Donald Trump maybe through a friend of a friend, or maybe she did have a small interaction with him. And then, of course, as he announced to run for president, she saw the opportunity right in front of her. Let me extort this guy. Let me tell him if you don't pay me $130,000, then I'm going to go to the media and say that you cheated on your wife with me, that you had an affair with me, that this, that, and the other happened. How is the prosecution going to prove that that's not what happened and that her story is authentic? It's going to be a tough one, especially after this admission. She's admitting her personal hate for the man. She's showing how far she's willing to go in displaying that hatred. She's even willing to break the law. Then, of course, her former lawyer is now saying from his prison cell that the whole thing was a, quote, shakedown, an attempted extortion of the former president. In other words, in conclusion, this case is going nowhere and going nowhere fast. And let's just really put it into perspective real quick. I know the Democrat leaders of New York City keep telling us how safe and amazing it is, but the reality is, crime has been on the rise in New York, and all the while, this is what the district attorney's office has been working on. This case, this Swiss cheese nonsense case that's now completely blowing up in his face. It's a farce of the highest degree. And at this point, I don't know if there is any road to redemption for little Alvin Bragg. I mean, even in the wild scenario where somehow known corrupt perjurer and liar Michael Cohen somehow manages to convince the jury that he's a credible source, and Stormy Daniels somehow manages to do the same, if somehow a corrupt partisan New York jury ends up siding with the prosecution, even in that case, it seems as though, at least according to the expert legal analysis of Alan Dershowitz, that the verdict is likely to be reversed in the Court of Appeals that just essentially made the same decision in relation to the Harvey Weinstein case.
Well, first of all, there was clear reversible error today committed by the judge and by the prosecution under the reasoning of the recently reversed Harvey Weinstein case. So much information came out that was utterly irrelevant. Let's start with whether they had sex at all. Utterly irrelevant. The only issue is whether she threatened to expose him and whether she extorted him and whether he then paid money to avoid the embarrassment to his family, to his business, to his children, and, according to the prosecution, to help himself get reelected. The issue of what actually happened is utterly irrelevant. And then we get to the details, the silk pajamas, the kind of lotion he was wearing. I can't imagine how the Court of Appeals in New York that reversed the Harvey Weinstein conviction, which was a harder case to reverse, wouldn't reverse this conviction if it got up there. I would certainly recommend to the prosecutors in this case that they study the Weinstein case very carefully because it gives a roadmap to what you can't do. And this prosecutor is just following the roadmap of what you can't do.
Irrelevant information being submitted onto the record. Stormy Daniels is going on and on about all kinds of nonsense, all kinds of personal things and stories that just isn't pertinent to the case, and of course that continues to show conflicts of interest, personal animus, and continues to sow doubt around the legitimacy of her claims, and that likely gives grounds to appeal in the Trump camp's favor. MSNBC is fawning over Stormy Daniels. How courageous. Look how she's dressed. So amazing. She's essentially a nun. So absolutely amazing. Donald Trump, evil orange glorf man, is definitely going down this time. But the reality is quite the opposite now, isn't it? What a bunch of leftist copium. Alvin Bragg's case is falling apart. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.